What about age? How does age play a role in your ability to build muscle and improve body composition? I get lots of questions about how to build muscle in the peri and postmenopausal years, so I want to discuss that here. While it's advantageous to develop muscle before this time in your life, muscle building remains both possible and crucial in the peri and postmenopausal years. So during these hormonal transitions, decreased estrogen levels can make muscle recruitment more challenging and can impact recovery. So this is important information to understand so that you can know how often to lift and how heavy to lift. So when we think about how often to lift, most studies say that weekly training volume, so the amount of sets you're doing per muscle group per week, matters more than how many sessions you're doing. But I would argue that shorter, more frequent sessions are best for peri and postmenopausal women. Studies indicate that we need at least 4 hard sets per muscle group per week to see significant muscle gain and body composition changes. If we break the body into about 9 major muscle groups, so quads, hamstrings, glutes, abs, back, chest, shoulders, biceps, triceps, that's a total of 32 working sets per week at least. Research suggests that you could do, in theory, all of these sets in one single workout. You could break them into 2 workouts, 3 workouts, 4, 5, 6, whatever. However, I would argue that instead of trying to clump these together into 1 or 2 or even 3 workouts, I would suggest spreading the work throughout 4 or 5 days rather than cramming it into 2 or 3 sessions. This is because fatigue limits motor recruitment. If you are doing longer sessions with overall more sets, your fatigue starts to inhibit your ability to recruit as much of the muscle, so quality of the set decreases or goes down as the workout continues and as you accumulate fatigue. This is an especially important aspect of training in the peri and postmenopausal group since lack of estrogen is already limiting muscle recruitment. So we want to limit how fatigue is affecting your ability to recruit a muscle. But if your workouts are shorter with fewer sets and spread more throughout your week, you are limited less by fatigue and have higher quality sets and can stimulate muscle tissue much more effectively. So that's how many times per week to train. Again, I suggest spreading that volume throughout maybe 4 or 5 workouts per week if you're an EVLA member, leaning on the 4 to 5 times per week track rather than the 3 time per week track if you can. Again, doing the 3 time per week track, you can still see great benefits, but ideally we spread them into more sessions. Additionally, peri and postmenopausal women may consider lower rep training with heavier weights. Now, it's possible to effectively build muscle with sets up to 30 repetitions. Higher reps are associated with more fatigue though. And again, this increased fatigue may limit muscle recruitment and the quality of the set. So when you're first starting strength training or if you're first starting EVLO, you may lift a little lighter with higher reps to kind of get the movement patterns down. But as you start to feel confident with those movement patterns, try to lift a bit heavier. There's no magic number as long as you get close to failure. So you could try 6 reps in each set, 8, 12, 15, does not matter. Just see what feels the best for you and what rep scheme limits your overall fatigue. A good kind of rule of thumb is that you want to feel relatively fresh going into each set. So if you do 8 reps, let's say, and you feel pretty, like your heart rate isn't super high and you feel pretty energetic and fresh in your following set, that's a really good rep range for you. If you do 25 reps and you're like, I am cooked going into the next set, your fatigue is higher, so your motor recruitment might be lower. Again, no right or wrong here, just something to kind of consider and play with, but know that even if you are lifting higher reps, 25, 30 reps, and you truly are approaching that muscular failure point where your final rep is really hard and really slow, you can still see muscle growth despite your age. So if you're peri or postmenopausal, I would choose the 4 or 5 time per week track, again, since the sessions are shorter, rather than choosing the 3 time per week track if you can. Know that we walk you through how to get close to failure in every single EVLO class. You'll hear us cueing so that you can lift heavier and do fewer reps and stop sooner than we do in class. That is no problem. We always say you don't have to follow us exactly. It's just about getting close to your muscle failure. So if you do fewer reps, you could stop and break and rest while we are finishing up the set that we're doing in class. No problem. So, another thing that I want you to consider is don't worry about how much something burns or if you're shaking or how many calories you're burning. None of that is important for body composition changes. It's all about giving your body a strong enough signal to trigger a cascade for muscle development and growth.